Good evening, Ajax, and welcome to our Metrolinx Durham-Scarborough Bus Rapid Transit Info Session, presented this evening by the Town of Ajax, Ajax Council, as well as Metrolinx and Durham Region Transit. My name is Rachel Wraith. I am the Manager of Corporate Communications for the Town of Ajax and your host for this evening's session. So we have a very busy agenda planned. We have several speakers that are going to be coming on to provide information and to answer your questions. We are joining you remotely from various homes across the GTA. So we do appreciate your patience and understanding should we have any technical difficulties. So just be aware that we have a whole team behind the scenes working on that. So if we do experience any technical difficulties, we will be back up and running very shortly. So this evening is an interactive session, and we're here to answer your questions in regards to the project and any impacts it would have on Ajax and specifically Pickering Village. So please, throughout the broadcast, if you have questions, please comment below in the Facebook comment section on the live stream. Our social media team is there to interact with you, answer your questions, and then relay the questions to myself during the Q&A portion. So please continue to ask your questions, and we'll get through as many as possible this evening. And if we aren't able to answer your questions tonight, we will follow up with you and ensure that you have all the information you're looking for. So to get us started, I'm just going to welcome Mayor Collier, as well as Regional Councillor Marilyn Crawford for Ward 1, and Local Councillor Rob Tyler Morin for Ward 1. Good evening, councillors.
Good evening.
So I just love So welcome, everyone. We have over about 30 people right now that are joining us live on Facebook, and I know that number is going to continue to climb. We're also live on the town's YouTube channel, as well as on our IMO public engagement platform on our Metrolinx project page. So I'll just turn it over to Mayor Collier just to provide some opening remarks.
Thanks, Rachel. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us this evening online. Before I get started, Rachel, you've already introduced a couple of my colleagues, Rob Tyler Morin and Regional Councillor Marilyn Crawford. Thank you for being here representing Ward 1. A few other people here I'd like to recognize. But first, Marilyn and Rob were the driving forces behind this information session this evening. I also want to acknowledge and thank Ajax's Transportation Supervisor, John Grieve, who is here, Kristen Damasi joining us from Metrolinx, Dave Hopper from the Parsons IBI Group, and Bill Holmes, General Manager of Durham Regional Transit, for making themselves available to provide all the information we need about this bus rapid transit project and to answer our questions. We've been promoting the BRT project and consultation opportunities via the town's public engagement platform, IMO, and we appreciate all the feedback and comments, and we'll be sharing those with Metrolinx. We're committed to continuing to keep the community informed about the project as work progresses. Before I pass the mic to Marilyn, I want to say that Ajax is proud to support public and active transportation infrastructure and program initiatives. As the Durham region continues to grow, we need transportation options that allow for better flow of goods, services, and people across the region and beyond. Our intention tonight is to ensure that we provide a platform for two-way communications so the details of the project are communicated and there is an opportunity for residents and businesses to voice any concerns they may have. I hope you'll find tonight's session informative and helpful. And Marilyn, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. For those of you that I haven't had the pleasure to meet yet, my name is Marilyn Crawford, and I'm the Ward 1 Regional Councillor here in Ajax. I want to echo the Mayor's comments that we absolutely support transit done right. I've heard mixed reviews on the Metrolinx BRT plan through the Pickering Village. This includes timing, the impact to local businesses, and the potential effect of traffic going through our local roads. Through this process tonight, I'm hoping that we have a clearer understanding of what the process forecast will look like, and how the proposed solution will check all of the boxes so that little negative impact will be happening. I'm going to pass the mic over to Rob before we dive right in.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. I'm Local Councillor Rob Tyler Morin. And just quickly, I want to thank staff who are supporting the event tonight, making this online conversation possible. Very important. We had an opportunity to review the plan in November at our meeting of council and voice our concerns to Metrolinx and the various stakeholders. However, I think it's really important that we make the information they provided to us available to the widest audience possible, so there are no surprises as we move forward with whatever decisions are made. Without further ado, I'll hand it back over to Rachel to keep the agenda moving.
Much for your opening remarks and your comments. I'd also like to mention that the rest of Ajax Council has logged on and they've also joined us to watch this evening's program. So I'd just like to say hello to Regional Councillor Sterling Lee, Councillor Ashmead Khan for Ward 2, as well as Regional Councillor Joanne Dyes and Local Councillor Lisa Bauer. So thank you so much for joining us. We're getting a ton of comments coming in, so please continue to ask your questions in the feed below. When we get to the Q&A portion, we'll be able to get to your questions. And we've got about 45 people joining us online right now, and I'm sure that number will continue to grow. So I'm just going to welcome John Grieve, our Supervisor of Transportation for the town of Ajax. Hi, John.
Thank
How
you,
are
Rachel.
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. So I'm just going to turn it over to you just to introduce the project and the project team before we get right into the presentation.
Great, thank you. So good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us this evening. As Rachel said, my name is John Grieve. I'm the Supervisor of Transportation for the town of Ajax, and have sat as the representative for the town on the Municipal Technical Advisory Group for this project since its beginning, and have seen it evolve as it's worked its way through the process. As Mayor Collier mentioned, this evening, Kristen DeMasi, project manager from Metrolinx, and David Hopper, consultant project manager from the IBI Parsons Group consultant team, are joining us this evening to give us a brief presentation on the project. Following their project, we will have a Q&A session where Bill Holmes, General Manager of Transit for Durham Region Transit, will also join Mayor Collier, myself, Kristen, and David to answer your questions. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Kristen and David.
Thanks, John, and thanks to the town of Ajax and for putting this on tonight. We do have some information for everybody, so we'll run through that now, and hopefully that can either answer some questions that might be out there or certainly spur some thoughts and discussions. So this project is part of the Metrolinx 2041 Regional Transportation Plan, and it forms a critical component of the frequent rapid transit network. So this network is about providing connections within Durham Region, but also to connect the region to the City of Toronto, as well as other areas of the GTA, and improve connections to other rapid transit lines, including Lakeshore East Go, TTC services, and other priority bus routes within Durham Region. So this is the study area that we're looking at. So we are looking at providing dedicated bus lanes between Simcoe Street and downtown Oshawa, across Highway 2, and along Kingston Road and Ellesmere Road into the City of Toronto. So it's not a new project. Today, the existing DRT Pulse service runs along Highway 2, but it terminates at the University of Toronto Scarborough campus. And this project will extend that service through to Scarborough Town Centre, connecting to TTC services, as well as sort of other areas in Scarborough, and improve the reliability, frequency and reliability of Pulse services within Durham Region. This is the overall project timeline. So you can see the boxed area is where we are now. That's the preliminary design phase. So this phase of work, we're presenting the preferred design and our technical studies that we've completed before we move on into the environmental assessment process sometime this year. And once this assessment has finished, the project will be considered for future phases of work. So including detailed design, procurement, and eventual construction, but that could be several years away. So I'm going to hand off to Dave Hopper to run through the preliminary design information.
Great, thanks, Kristen. So in the previous round of consultation, when we started the project, we had a number of potential solutions along the corridor. We did identify there were about 5 areas along this corridor where the road is too narrow to put in the ultimate preferred solution of a 6-lane cross-section with 4 lanes of general traffic and bus lanes in the middle. And Pickering Village is one of those key areas. So during the evaluation of this particular pinch point, we looked at a range of options from simply providing some transit priority through signals, traffic signals, or queue jumps at intersections. We looked at making the curb lanes available for HOV vehicles only. We looked at having buses in the curb lane, buses in the middle, and potentially widening the road. Technically, the preferred solution was option 3 at the time, which was to use the curb lanes as dedicated bus lanes. But we also heard a fair amount of support for option 5, which was the idea of widening the corridor to maintain road capacity, but also provide a transit priority. But there were a couple of challenges with both of those options, and they relate not only to maintaining existing traffic capacity, but also the heritage issues in the village with the heritage area to the north and some heritage buildings, and particularly the cemetery on the south. So we're looking at a number of, we went back and looked at a couple of other options to see what we could do to balance those things off. So when we were looking at this, there's a number priority does this provide? What's it going to do to existing traffic? So do we maintain capacity? Are we potentially reducing capacity, which may influence people's choice of using local streets rather than Kingston Road? What's the impact on driveways and accesses along Kingston Road, particularly for businesses? The cultural heritage impacts that I mentioned above, as well as does this support future development? And will this actually help grow ridership along the corridor to help reduce the pressure to provide additional road capacity in the future, as well as what are the long-term capital and operating costs of the various solutions. So what we did was we went back and had a look at the solution, and what we've came up with was we found that westbound traffic in the morning rush hour is actually a little bit lighter than eastbound traffic in the afternoon rush hour. And so while we found that a 4-lane option was not giving us the priority we wanted, and a 6-lane option was having a major impact on the heritage character of the area, we found that we have a sort of a Goldilocks solution, which is a 5-lane cross-section. So to explain that, what I mean is we would have one westbound lane for general traffic through the village area. We would have 2 BRT lanes in the middle. You can see them in red here on the plan. We would have the 2 stops on the far side of the intersection shown in blue, so people could cross at the traffic lights and the crosswalks to get to and from the platforms. Then we would have 2 eastbound lanes to handle the afternoon traffic. We also maintain the left turns from Kingston Road, both onto northbound and southbound Church Street. So we think that this has does balance the sort of the 3 options that are, or 3 features that are competing here, which is providing enough capacity for the traffic that's out there today, planning for the future by providing transit priority and dedicated facilities in the middle of the road, and protecting the heritage character as much as possible. Before we dive into some more details, I just wanted to also mention that we are looking as all the way across the town. So the section that I was showing you earlier is part of segment 2 here, which is part of the pinch point zone, which is between Elizabeth Street and Rotherglen Road. There are also 2 other segments in Ajax that are part of the same project. So section 1 on the left from the boundary at Notion Road to Elizabeth Street. The intent here is to widen from a 4-lane road to 6 lanes to provide 4 lanes for cars and 2 lanes for transit. That will also include widening the bridge over Duffins Creek and providing parallel active transportation. And then zone 3 at the east ends from Rutherglen all the way through to Lake Ridge. The intent is to widen the road here as well. So we maintain capacity to handle the traffic that's out there today. We provide dedicated transit lanes in the middle to meet transit needs in the future. And there's also more elbow room and fewer heritage buildings as we get further east. We have done an extensive look at all of the natural environment, social environment features as well. But in particular in this area, it's the cultural heritage that is one of the key ones. So there's about 59 known or potential features here, a number of properties. There is the actual heritage district itself on the north side of Kingston Road. We have now completed some additional cultural heritage studies to look in more detail at some of the key properties that we've been sharing that information with town staff. And we believe that we're finding solutions for almost all of these properties along here. And that will be an ongoing process as we move forward with the project. We also have presented this to the Heritage Advisory Committee and had a discussion with them about some of the issues that are coming up on the project. One of the key issues that we've heard from the public, both at the first and second rounds of open houses, as well as part of this virtual PIC, is what's going to happen with changes in traffic patterns if we actually put in this BRT system. So there's a number of things. We've gone back to look at where people start and end their trips, what routes they take using the models that are available. And we've done a couple of sensitivity testing things. And what we're finding is that about 30% of the traffic that's on Kingston Road today is really through traffic, sort of crossing all the way through town. And they have some other potential options and routes, such as Rossland or going down to Highway 401 or further south. There's a number of trips that are sort of medium distance that pass through the village area, which are using local streets for part of their trip today and may use a little bit more of the local streets for their trip in the future. But what we're not seeing, because we are providing 3 general traffic lanes, is we're not seeing a great desire for people to move off of Kingston Road and infiltrate into the local communities. What we see westbound in the morning is that around 10% of the traffic may move off of Kingston Road, primarily to go to other places within the town of Ajax itself. About 5% are likely going to choose to go to the north, so up to Delaney or a couple of other options, and about 5% moving to the south. And Lincoln is the major route that they will take on towards the south. So we're doing a little bit more work right now to understand what that does to those streets and to some of the other supporting streets. But as I mentioned, it's a fairly low number of cars that would make those extra moves. So that's sort of the summary of the key issues. What I'd like to talk about now for a minute is sort of the consultation that we have done and where we're going in the future. So we have been doing a fair amount of consultation to date. We had stakeholder meetings in June and August of 2019. We had our first round of PICs back in June of 2019, just before the summer break, and then we came out again in September. We had a second round of meetings in November of 2019. We've also been meeting with Ajax staff, the Heritage Committee, back and forth. We've been to Ajax Council and Regional Council a number of times, and we're now in the third round of consultation. So we've done all the background environmental work. We're now getting into sharing some of the impact assessment. We're sharing the technical solutions and what we've heard and what we're learning from the communities as we go along. So that's now live, available at the Metrolinx Engage website and through events like this. We did meet with Ajax Council back in November, as well as the Accessibility Committee. And we've also met with the Durham Region Cycling Coalition to make sure that the plans we have for enhancing active transportation in the corridor in parallel with improving transit matches everybody's expectations for what's happening. So what have we heard so far? Well, we did hear that the heritage resources are very important in Pickering Village, and we need to preserve as much as absolutely possible. We did hear from a lot of people that the BRT will be very well received by high school and university students, as well as people who live and work in the corridor. So if you live in Ajax, but you need to go to the large shopping mall in Pickering, or you're going into a job in downtown Oshawa, which about 40% of the people in this corridor do. This gives them another option to take public transit to get there. And increasing BRT will also make it more reliable and easier for people to travel without having to plan ahead. There was good support for the stop locations, which generally serve the town well. We did have some people who were concerned about the curbside option. Some were concerned that we should be in the median of the road and we need to preserve traffic capacity. And we did hear concerns about the heritage and safety and accessibility that we've discussed. So we're taking those back. And we've revised that into the 5-lane plan that we've been showing, and hopefully we've addressed those concerns. And part of what we want to hear tonight is how well we've done with that and what other things we could do to try and make things better. So PIC number 3 launched in the middle of November. It's now going to run until the 10th of January, which is this coming weekend. The website address is here. It's metrolinxengage.com/DSBRT. You can also just go into Google and type Durham-Scarborough Bus Rapid Transit, and this comes up as your first choice. So it will provide you more information on the previous consultation rounds, some of the preliminary design drawings, some renderings of what the stops could look like. In terms of general size and massing, it's not exactly how they're going to be finished. Some explanatory videos to help you walk through the information, and there's also the ability to post questions for us to answer. There's a survey that you can take to get back to us, as well as an interactive map to provide more details. We're also available by email and phone to keep the conversations rolling as we move forward. So the next steps in this process, PIC 3 is not the end. The consultations will continue. We'll continue working with the mayor and staff and councillors. We'll be summarizing the feedback we get from this round of consultation, and then there will be a preliminary design business case and a draft environmental project report we're preparing. We then follow the TPAP process, which has a consultation component to it. So there will be a 4th PIC that we'll be holding sometime in the spring. And then there'll be ongoing consultation as well once the plan is approved and we start moving into implementation. The region and the Metrolinx are investigating the Canada Infrastructure Program as one potential funding mechanism. We'll also be looking for provincial support as we move forward. So there are still plenty of time to have more conversations about the project. So with that, I'd like to turn it back and we can open it up and answer some questions that you have.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that presentation. We were receiving tons of questions coming in. We have about 50 people online right now who are watching and do have several questions. So we can get started with the panel. So I'd just like to welcome back Mayor Collier, who will be on the panel, as well as John Grieve, Kristen. Dave will come in and out with Kristen, and as well as Bill from Durham Region Transit. So thank you all so much for joining us and for being on our panel this evening. So to get us started, I have a question from Timothy, and it's in regarding to timing of construction. So when is it expected to begin, and how long will it take? So I will pass that question over to Kristen.
Yeah, that's a good question. So we do have, as part of the PIC material, we are working on an implementation plan where we've sort of had to make some assumptions in terms of when we think construction should start based on, ridership and growth within Durham, when we might need the lanes. But a lot of construction will be really based on funding that becomes available over time. So we don't have a clear idea on exactly when funding will start or construction will start right now. And those details will sort of become clearer as the project moves into the next phases of work and detailed design and procurement. But the Durham region has identified some funding from the federal government. So there might be work starting on the corridor over the next sort of 2 to 3 years, but it will be a phased approach. We can't do everything at once. So yeah, that's sort of that's what we're looking at. It's not kind of clear cut and dry as to when funding will start at this particular time. It will really depend on what happens over the next phases of work.
Thank you. So I'll just move to our next question, and it was a good segue when you mentioned funding. And this may be a question for yourself once again, but where will the funding be coming from for this project?
We're still not sure. It can come from either the province, the federal government, or other sort of initiatives that Metrolinx or Durham Region or the town sort of identify. So.
I think we can clarify. Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe a percentage of the cost will be covered by the region and Durham Regional Transit, which is property tax based, but the balance will need to come through a form of some type of grant from federal or provincial government.
Thank you. I believe that Bill from DRT has a few follow-up comments to that. So I'll just turn that over to Bill.
Thank you very much, Mayor Collier, Rachel. Just to add to what Kristen had to say, we do have approved funding at this point in time for certain segments of the corridor once the EA is completed. So that would include sections of Ajax outside of Pickering Village, where we do have a combination of federal, provincial, and municipal funding so that we can advance some of the sections now. But for the location of Pickering Village, following the EA, we will need to be looking for additional funding sources, and that will be likely a few years out before that takes place.
Excellent. Thank you so much for providing that further information and clarification. So we're getting quite a few questions coming in from Facebook, so I'm just going to move to Facebook just to grab another question. So this is from Andrew, and he wants to know, are 2 lanes enough for a growing town? So perhaps, John, I can pass that question over to you.
Yeah, sure. I think I can start to answer it, and then perhaps David can also fill in some of the results of the analysis. So as David said, the project team has completed some significant analysis of the corridor and looking at the projections for not only the existing traffic but future growth. They are finding, as he said, that the model suggests there is sufficient capacity to accommodate traffic needs, and that with the enhanced transit along the corridor, there would be a mode shift. We would see more people using transit, decreasing obviously motor vehicles within the corridor. And then, as he mentioned, there is some assumptions based that trips with transit or trips would move to other corridors or other parallel routes where there is some excess capacity as well.
Thank you, John. And Dave, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, just to add to that, I would say that what we've tried to do is make sure that there's adequate capacity for a fairly long time. So our planning horizon is 2041. So our numbers are showing that even in 2041, with growth in the region, we're still seeing enough road capacity to make everything work. And then as the roads become more congested, we will see more people choosing transit, which will help take pressure off the need to widen roads in the local area.
Excellent. Thank you very much for adding that extra context. And I hope that answers Andrew's question from Facebook. I have a general question that's coming in from Karina, and I believe this will be best answered by Bill. But how does the Durham-Scarborough Rapid Transit program work?
Thank you for that question. So the BRT is really the backbone of our transit system, and we've experienced that over the past 4 years. But again, as David indicated, we're looking ahead towards 2041, and what our requirements are going to be at that point in time, and in really ensuring that we have a strong backbone of the system so that residents choose transit. They are out of the car. We have that modal shift that was mentioned earlier. So this is really a great opportunity for us to improve our transportation network in general, improve mobility, not just outside of the region, but within the region. And it's something that we're looking at and we're sort of experiencing now. There's a lot of local trips being taken, and having a BRT system that can get people to where they're going quickly, reliably, will really assist the region in moving forward and being able to continue to accommodate the growth that we're currently experiencing and that we'll be experiencing into the future.
Thank you, and I hope that answers Karina's question. And again, if you do have any follow-up questions or any information that you're looking for from Durham Region Transit, you can find all that information online. So we do have several people that are still logged in that are joining us. We've got about 45 people that have joined us online. So if you're new to the live stream and you're new to the feed and you have questions about the Bus Rapid Transit project here in Ajax and impacts to the Pickering Village area, please ask your questions below in the comments section, and we'll do our best to get to everybody's questions. So the next question I'll go to is from Francis. And wants to know, are we reconfiguring all the work that's already been done through Ajax? And can we just provide a little bit more information around that? And I'll pass that question over to John, and then John, whoever else you'd like to add any more information to it.
Sure, I can start. So as the preliminary design shows at this moment, the preferred alignment specifically for the BRT for the bus service is a center lane alignment or two center lane alignments. As David mentioned earlier, with through the Pickering Village, that's a 5-lane cross section, and then outside of the village, it would represent a 6-lane cross section, 2 general purpose lanes in each direction, along with the center bus lanes. So that would mean a reconfiguration of the existing bus lanes that are on Kingston Road between Westney and Salem. And so, but given that the right-of-way exists and the widening has already taken place, the reconfiguration would be a more simple improvement, a much quicker construction project, as all the space, all of the major utility relocation has already taken place.
Thank you, and I'll just pass that over to David.
Some of the sections where the curb lanes have been built, they have been designed to transition quite easily to the median operation. So we do expect that to happen very quickly in those sections. And then the other sections would go along as regular construction projects. So we're taking the opportunity to revitalize the streetscape where we're putting in the median BRT. So it gives us opportunities to enhance the public realm around this corridor to make it attractive for more pedestrians to come, because as we know, every transit trip begins and ends as a pedestrian trip. So we want to make it as enticing as possible to bring people to the service.
Thank you. So the next question, we have received several questions, but this is from Denise, and it's in regards to traffic. So Denise lives in the area around the Pickering Village area, and there's a lot of new developments that are happening in that area. And now with this project taking place, so she'd like to know what's being done to ensure that traffic is not going to be diverted from Kingston Road to local streets, and that we're not going to see like an increase of traffic on our local streets. So I'll pass that over to John, and then we'll go from there.
Great, thank you, Rachel. So yes, absolutely. Traffic infiltration is probably, at least in my realm, the biggest concern I have as the supervisor of transportation. So I definitely want to make sure that that's not happening, and is not affecting our local residents in the area. So we definitely will be monitoring that. The town of Ajax does robust data collection. We will ensure that this corridor in this area becomes part of that, that we understand what are the volumes we are seeing on these roads and in this area before construction, if it were to proceed, and then we will absolutely monitor it through construction and once the facilities were built to ensure, as David mentioned in his analysis that the project team has completed, they show minimal impact. We want to ensure that that is in fact the case. So the town will be conducting monitoring and watching those volumes.
Can I just add, Rachel, that
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, this nature, I would suggest that we are going to see some infiltration. I think every time we do something like this, we do see some infiltration, and that's not avoidable. But we also have to keep in mind the long-term vision, and the long-term vision is to eventually get people out of their cars and into other different types of transit or transportation. One of the things that COVID has really brought to the forefront is the fact that people can work from home, and there are less cars on the road, and we don't need to be traveling here and there and everywhere for these meetings. These formats, these digital formats have been great for that. So I'm hoping, honestly, I imagine there will be some up front, but I'm hoping, honestly, over the long term, we are able to do what the actual goal is and eventually get more people out of their cars, into transit, reduce our carbon emissions, and move forward. And that's ultimately the goal. Will it be painless? No. It's going to be a little bit painful during the construction phase, but over the long term, I think there's going to be much more benefit.
Thank you very much, Mayor Collier. And you bring up a great point just around, Ajax and Ajax Council's commitment around sustainable transportation, active modes of transportation, multimodal transportation. Is there anything else you'd like to add on that, just in terms of, the vision for that in Ajax?
Well, we're trying to look at, we have our active transportation, or which is called transportation plan, or I don't remember what the actual plan is called, but it sets out all these different types of things we're trying to achieve. And active transportation, transit, everything else are all sorts of things we're trying to encourage. Again, get people cars, get people moving more in other different ways. And it's going to take some time and it's going to take some growth. But that's why we put so much time and effort into our trail systems, into bike lanes, into promoting transit, into Durham Regional Transit, for instance. It's a sort of rounded group effort, I'll call it. And other municipalities are doing the same. It's going to take some time to change behavior. But again, people might not get it right away, but over time, again, we need to keep the big picture in mind. So yeah, we might see some infiltration. We might have a little bit of annoyance from some construction, but I think we all have witnessed some of the challenges with the bus lanes on the outside right now, and how people cutting across, and unsafe for cyclists in some areas, and some people just don't know how to use the bike lanes and use them for regular, and how do we enforce that? I think by going to this other option, I think it will solve some of those problems, and along with everything else, hopefully, we will be able to move forward.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and speaking more to your vision and to the vision for the town in terms of our overall transportation network. So just back to the BRT project, we are getting some questions around safety. So this question comes from Amanda. How safe are the platforms in the middle of the road versus the curbside? How will people safely get to stop? And will this actually just tempt people into crossing the road and not using the lights or a proper crosswalk? So I will turn that question over to John.
Sure, I can begin. I would suggest David would be also good to give you some answer on this. With center median or center median platforms, there definitely is different design elements that are incorporated into the intersections. We want to ensure that the pedestrians can safely cross to and from those platforms, ensure that sight lines around those intersections are clear and all pedestrians are visible to motorists. So that is definitely something that is done through the design process and will be considered as this project moves into detailed design, ensuring that people can safely cross and get to and from those platforms, because we do want to ensure that a trip, as we said, every bus trip starts and ends with a pedestrian trip. So we want to make sure that that is a safe trip.
Sure, and I can add a few more details to that. So every stop is located at a signalized traffic intersection. So we do have signalized crosswalks to bring people to and from each stop. That was done on purpose. The back edge of each platform will have a waist-high concrete jersey barrier style separator with glass above it. So you'll be completely protected from the traffic that's between you and the curb. Because you're only crossing half the road to get to the stop or to come from the stop back out into the community, you don't have to cross as many traffic lanes on each trip. So that's helpful for people who don't move as quickly as someone who is younger. So there's a whole series of features. The far end of the platform that is not at the crosswalk is also closed off. So it's quite obvious that is not the way to exit the station. We see that on the Viva system, where that space has been used for planters and other things to make it obvious that you need to go to the traffic light and wait and cross when you have a walk signal. So we're looking to design the stop so that you have good visibility with glazing, good information so you know where you are and where you're traveling to. And so we're building in a whole series of features that we've learned from other projects like Viva, like St. Clair Avenue, like Spadina Avenue in Toronto with the streetcars, to make sure that this is as safe and convenient as possible. I would also point out that these stops are also fully accessible. So we're meeting all of the AODA requirements for people to get to and from the accessible buses. So where the end of the platform comes out to the crosswalk, you'll see on our plans there's a bit of what we call a banana island protecting it. So it actually is a pedestrian refuge there. So that if you need to wait for the light to change, you're standing behind a jersey barrier, not being directly facing the traffic. So we think we've done a lot to make sure that it's going to be very safe and very convenient for people to use.
Thank you. Safety is obviously such an important part of these projects and this infrastructure. So I appreciate more information and explanation just around what that will look like. So we do still have several more questions coming in. More people are joining us online. We're at about almost 7:15 now. We will be live until 7:30. So if you do have questions, please leave them in the comments section below. I'd also like to mention that you can submit your questions and your comments to the town via our IMO page. That's our, in my opinion, public engagement platform, which can be found at ajax.ca/IMO. And this live stream is also happening on IMO as well as on the town's YouTube page. So a live recording of this will continue to be available. So please, if you're just joining in and you have questions, please ask. And we'll just move to our next question. And this is from Trish. And would like to know, just in terms of the consultation process, what are other ways that Metrolinx is doing to engage with residents who may not be online? For example, those in the 55+ community, or those who just aren't online. What other methods are there for consultation? So I'll pass that over to Kristen.
So, I mean, we're kind of in this new world of virtual consultation right now. So, over the last 12 months, we had been doing in-person open houses. We hope one day that will resume. We do send mail outs to people along the corridor. And we are sort of currently trying to figure out some additional ways that we can communicate with people. We have been, we've been presenting at councils, at various committee meetings over the last, 2 to 3 months to sort of get the word out and the information out there. But yeah, I can appreciate that not everybody's online, but I think, over the next few months and certainly into future phases, we are sort of trying to figure out some additional ways that we can communicate with people and get the information out. Dave, do you have anything to add on that? Have I missed anything?
There's a couple of other tools we've used. So the PICs have been published in the local newspaper, so people who read the local newspaper will see it, and then there's an email and a phone number address on there, and they could write to us or phone us that way. We also have a stakeholder advisory group that's made up of neighborhood associations, BIAs, and other groups like the Cycling Coalition. So when we meet with them, we ask them, as part of being on that committee, to take the information back and disseminate it to their members in a way that's most helpful. So we have heard that that's been successful in reaching sort of the next tier of people. We're also finding that a lot of neighbors find out about it and start talking to their neighbors and get back to us as well. So we think we're doing a relatively good job of reaching out. It's always challenging along a 36-kilometer corridor to reach everybody, but we are trying to, and anybody who does phone or send us an email or send us a letter, we are replying back to them, and that all becomes part of the public record for the project.
Thank you. And throughout the broadcast, you are seeing different opportunities to stay connected with Metrolinx as well as the other various speakers here. So I know that question did come in from our residents, so we'll make sure that we connect them directly with Metrolinx. So if they are interested in being on a mailing list or receiving that information, that we make that connection. So we have several more questions coming in. We aren't going to be able to get to all of them this evening, but we do have time for more before we wrap up. So we've got about 15 more minutes to go here. And again, thank you so much for everybody for joining us. So the next question that we're going to go to is around, it's from James. And would like to know, his comment is, there are very little options for parallel routes. So if there is any, large developments or potential impacts to casino traffic, what will be the impact with this project on top of it? So I know we've already talked about traffic and around those the other routes and local residential roads, but should there be an accident or anything like that, what would mitigate? How would we mitigate that? And I'll pass that question over to John.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, Rachel. Obviously, with any accidents are always the most difficult incident to plan for, especially significant accidents where you results in multiple lane closures. So any accident is always a difficult thing to forecast, but we definitely want to make sure that there are parallel routes, and through Ajax there are a number of parallel routes. You have Bailey to the south of the 401, the 401 itself, Kingston Road, Ross Road, and Taunton Road. So you do have a number of arterial east-west roads that are able to carry capacity in and through Ajax. Related to the Durham Live or Pickering Casino development, it obviously is ready to open, but has not due to COVID restrictions. But the traffic modeling and analysis done as part of that project really shows the majority of traffic staying south of the 401. There's a large volume of traffic that comes on and off the interchanges, both in Ajax and in Pickering, and then travels south to get to the facility. Really, the traffic traveling up north and south on Kingston Road is more locally based within Ajax and within Durham, in a slightly larger study area. So it is our anticipation that that traffic will not adversely affect the village. We will obviously monitor that. That is another element of monitoring my group and the town will do. And obviously the BRT only provides another multimodal option for visitors to the casino to get to the facility and use it.
Thanks, John. So my next question, I'm going to pass it over to Mayor Collier. So we've just been getting some comments here just around the bike lanes and infrastructure, and Mayor Collier spoke to this earlier. But can you just speak to the importance of having this mix of bus lanes and bike lanes? How that complements the work that we're doing in Ajax, specifically the active TOA program.
Sure, thanks, Phil. Well, we're always looking, especially now with COVID, people are looking for all sorts of different options to go out and be active because, again, our rec centers are closed and restricted and a lot of other things. So we're doing everything we can to provide as many options as possible. Of course, our climate isn't really conducive to cycling year-round. You don't see a lot of people out cycling right now, but it's a great place to get out and walk. It's a great place to get out and use our trails and enjoy all our outdoor spaces. So as far as the active TOA, I know this isn't really transit related, but we're looking at a combination. So we will give as many options as we absolutely can for people other than their car. And I think that's the ultimate goal of all of these things. Transit is one of them. And I'm really proud of the work we're doing at DRT. It's a great committee to be on. But at the same time, we have to also look at a lot of other different things as well within our through our municipalities. And you do a great job as far as the active TOA with our designated routes and a lot of other different things that we have to get people out and give them options to get from A to B without having to get into their cars.
Thank you. So it's excellent just how all of these programs and strategies and plans really complement one another in terms of getting people outside of their cars. So thank you for that. My next question, we have time for just a few more before we wrap up. But this question actually comes from Councillor Rob Warren. And wanted to know, did Metrolinx consider and or explore having the BRT along Bailey or even Taunton to connect with Durham College, or Bailey to connect with GO Transit and other rail lines? So this is just kind of, was that anything that was ever considered? And I'll pass that over to Bill.
Thank you for that question, and I may need the assistance of Kristen or David on this. And again, the establishment of the Highway 2 corridor, again, from a public transit perspective, is where we have the best opportunity of moving the most people to hit a lot of our trip generators across the region. That corridor also connects north-south to many of our key areas as well, and maintains service close to the GO Rail as well. I will have to turn it to Chris and David if they have any information regarding the background in terms of establishing Highway 2 as the main BRT route. But from a public transit and effectiveness in terms of moving people to and from key destination areas, that is the corridor at this point that best serves the public transit needs of the region. Kristen?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. The only thing I would add is, this corridor is part of the overall regional transportation plan that Metrolinx has. So, while we're doing this work on Highway 2 now, because, as Bill said, it's the corridor with the most growth, and connecting sort of those key destinations. We know that there's other corridors like Taunton that, will require sort of transit improvements over time. Those corridors are part of our frequent rapid transit network. They're part of the regional plan. So, the answer is sort of they are part of the plan. There will be work on them at some point in the future. It's just, right now we can't do everything at once, and we're focusing on Highway 2 corridor, but those other projects will certainly be planned at some point in the future.
Road would basically for people, let's use South Ajax for instance, to access. When BRT started, and I think I want to say 2012, Bill, but I'm not sure. We've been operating at 150% of what we estimated our capacity at when we started. And I think that's an indicator that the right route was chosen. Being along Highway 2, one of the major east-west corridors that goes all the way from Clarington out through to Scarborough, captures everything and goes through the downtowns of several different areas like Whitby and Oshawa as well. So I mean, I would call it a huge success, just given the numbers, and just 50% over what we initially thought it would be right from the start. But having it too far north or too far south, I don't think would have met that same goal that we did meet. So I think the right route was chosen. Unfortunately, with the planning, 50, 100 years ago of some of our downtowns like Pickering Village, I think they never envisioned things to be this busy, and obviously the buildings were built a lot closer to the road, which has created these pinch points in Pickering Village and downtown Whitby and downtown Oshawa, and eventually downtown Clarington when we get the pulse route all the way out there. And so this is sort of a workaround to make it work through those pinch points, again, into the ultimate goal of getting more people out of their cars and more people into transit.
Mayor Colley, I just wanted to add to that again, that the Highway 2 corridor, one of the, again, the benefits there is that it does connect right into, and it will connect into the Scarborough subway and into Toronto, and the work that we're undergoing now in terms of service and integration with our regional partners, including the TTC and GO in York, it really allows that seamless mobility across the region, which will be a huge benefit not only for our residents in Durham, but for residents who don't live in Durham but come here to work. So it really is a key corridor for us in terms of connecting with across the region.
Yep.
Sorry, and just our final question here, thank you very much, is just around the length of time. So once this project is complete, like how long will it take to go from the start of the route to the end of the route?
So today, if you got on a bus at Simcoe Street in downtown Oshawa and take it all the way across to Scarborough Centre, it would take you 100 minutes. So that's an hour, and there's going to be about a 15 to 25 minute saving because the BRT lanes will allow the buses to move without being stopped in traffic. But you're also going to gain another 10 minutes because the buses run reliably every 5 minutes. So there'll be 10 minutes you save before you even leave your house in the morning, because you won't have to plan for maybe that bus will be a minute early, or maybe that bus is going to be late and I have to leave myself extra time. So we think you're going to save about 30% of your travel time compared to riding the corridor today. So that's another feature that drive ridership up, is you don't have to plan ahead. It'll be every 5 minutes, and it'll be every 5 minutes when it says it's going to be there. So that will encourage people to use it. And as was mentioned earlier about traffic accidents, because the buses are in their own lanes, they will not be affected by those kinds of incidents the same way that they are today. So we are going to give transit the priority it needs to perform its function.
Well, that's all the time we have this evening for our questions. So I just like to thank our panel members and all of our participants this evening for your expertise and for your time in answering all these questions. So thank you very much. And I'd just like to welcome back on Regional Councillor Marilyn Crawford and Local Councillor Rob Tyler Morin for closing remarks. So I'll pass it right over to the Mayor.
Thanks, Rachel, and thank you to all of our speakers tonight. Truly appreciate your time and expertise. I'd like to extend our thanks to the community as well for tuning in and asking these important questions. Hopefully everybody has a great evening now, and I'll pass over to Marilyn for her final remarks.
I was muted, so sorry. Thank you, Mayor Collier. It certainly was an informative and educational session tonight. I know our Ward 1 residents have had many questions, and if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out or visit our BRT project page on the IMO page. And of course, you can either reach out to myself, Marilyn Crawford, or Rob Tyler Morin. We're happy to take any of your questions and try to help you out. And now over to Rob.
That we were able to host this evening's, and a recording will be made available immediately on the town's Facebook page, YouTube, and IMO platforms. Thank you all once again for joining us. And back to you, Rachel, to close the session off.
So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us tonight online for this interactive live session. As mentioned, if you have any comments or feedback that you'd like to share with Metrolinx in regards to this project, the survey will serve until January the 10th, and you can find that survey and information about the project on the town's public information, public engagement platform, IMO, at ajax.ca/IMO. And as always, continue to stay connected with the town through our social media accounts, online, and through our various communications channels. So thank you all once again for joining us this evening. We look forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much.